and been pathetically grateful for a place at the kitchen table. He'd loved bologna sandwiches and lime Kool-Aid. I swayed, gripped the edge of a nearby steel table for balance, and instantly recoiled. The slab was bare, even sterile, but I had a sudden, swift sense of all the bodies that had rested there, for a brief and grisly interval, with only a toe tag to differentiate them from the other vacant shells of humanity that had passed through that place. I'm not exactly squeamish, but I was in a morgue, and 4 months pregnant. Kay Scarpetta, I'm not. Sonterra pressed a hand to the small of my back and steered me toward the exit. Once outside in the corridor, I sank onto a bench and dropped my head between my knees. I asked you to wait in the car, Sonterra said, with a familiar note of resignation. He waited until I straightened, then handed me a paper cup with a slosh of lukewarm water inside. None of this was new to him. He'd stood by many times, while a family member identified a victim, and even witnessed autopsies. But he was clearly shaken. I gulped down the water, waited to see if my stomach would send it hurtling back up, or simply convulse around it with a couple of good clenches. I kept down the first dose, and threw back the rest. This would cinch it, I thought. Just the day before, Sonterra had fessed up that he'd been offered a job with a federal task force. He'd been closed-mouthed about the details, but I knew it had something to do with the stream of illegal immigrants flooding in from Mexico. Now, because of Jimmy, he'd accept for sure, turn his whole life upside down, and mine with it. Coyotes, he said. He wasn't referring to the four-legged variety. In cop speak, coyotes are the sleazeball flesh smugglers who run Mexican nationals across the border, into the land of milk and honey, for a price. They lock their clients up in the trunks of cars, in airless vans, and in safe houses, sometimes 10 to 32 a room, with little or no food, water, or sunlight. If things go sour in transit, they often shoot them in the head and leave them in the desert for the buzzards. And that's the merciful method. The most common one is dropping them off miles from any road, without their shoes, if they had any in the first place, without water or food, or any means to defend themselves. Duct tape and dehydration save on the high cost of bullets. Coyotes are in business to make money, and they do, hand over fist. Sonterra and I left the building in silence, started across the parking lot toward his slick SUV, gleaming black in the winter sun. That's the reason we Arizonans put up with summer temperatures in the 120-degree range, for the mellow months between October and April. The door locks popped audibly when he pressed the button on his key fob. We'd discussed the new job, of course, but it was a source of conflict. It meant leaving the Phoenix-Scottsdale area, where I had friends and a pro bono practice I loved, for a wide spot in the road well off the beaten path. I was familiar with Dry Creek, a dust bunny under the bed of life, because of its proximity with Tucson, my hometown. I'd gone there a lot as a teenager, admittedly to party with other wild kids, and had always come away with one clear thought: thank God I don't live there. It's ironic how fate keeps track of blithe statements like that one and uses them to slap you in the face. Does this mean you're going to play ball with the feds and sign on as chief of police in Dry Creek? The last chief, a man named Oz Gilbride, had disappeared into a parallel universe a couple of months ago, under a cloud of controversy and suspicion. I remembered Oz from my misspent youth, too. He'd run a lax department, which was why kids from Tucson liked to raise hell in and around his town. Since he'd vanished, the news media had pegged Chief Gilbride as the lead dog in a very bad pack of coyotes. And maybe they were right. Maybe they were full of bullshit, too. I'm not a fan of talking heads, lacquered and smiling, assessing the world from behind a news desk. Most of them, in my opinion, could be a little less interested in pursuing their personal political agendas and a lot more interested in telling the truth. It's one thing to alert the population to corporate or government skullduggery, and quite another to back up a truck and dump a load of fear into the collective consciousness just because there's nothing else to talk about on that particular day. The sky is falling. Film at 6.